know, you, Honorable Rene, said that following that determination of the Supreme Court, gender of people is no longer known. So I don't know when Honorable Tim Wanyonyi confirmed it does not belong to the gender you imagine. Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, proceed.
Honorable, my gender is known, and I know I subscribe to the original creation, the way God created us, man and woman.
Yes.
Not the other people who are trying to bring in a third party,
yes,
which does not subscribe to nature.
So Honorable Tim Wanyonyi is an African male adult.
Yes.
And so after he contributes, the other gender will be considered. You may proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I represent an urban constituency, and this gambling issue, this betting, Mr. Speaker, is really affecting our society. You come these days, Mr. Speaker, they have created small machines, a size of an ATM machine, Mr. Speaker, which are placed in local villages. And you find boys and girls, they sneak in, go and play that thing. There is even no age limit. It's allowed, anybody can play. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, we must save this generation from this. This betting, Mr. Speaker, if it's not regulated, is going to create a big problem in this society. The current generation, Mr. Speaker, we are witnessing people thinking that hard work is not necessary. You can just go and gamble and win millions of money. And this, Mr. Speaker, is the biggest monster that is consuming our young people. And we must find a way to regulate this so that only licensed betting companies, Mr. Speaker, can do this business, and with strict regulation as to age and the people who can participate, and also the timing of how they do it. Mr. Speaker, you find betting now has gone into areas which are very popular with people, especially sports and other things, Mr. Speaker. So that people now, even football, people don't watch football because they love football. They watch football because they are playing, they are gambling. They are trying to, you know, do something about which team is going to win and what, and on like that, Mr. Speaker. And we have seen this trend is going on, and you have seen many people. If you ask him, even the player of a team that is, you know, he doesn't know anybody, but he is betting on that. So we are just looking, Mr. Speaker, that this issue was even in this House in the last Parliament, and we debated it, and there was issue of raising taxes so that they can discourage them. But I don't think that is the issue, because even if we raise taxes, these people, they mint a lot of money. And you remember, Mr. Speaker, in the 80s when we hosted all African Games here, there was an American conman who came here and pretended that he was going to bring Michael Jackson and others to come and perform before the games. And he collected millions of shillings, Mr. Speaker, and disappeared in a thin air. That the President Moi had to intervene and bring Franco from DRC Congo to come and save the situation. And this is, Mr. Speaker, we have seen foreigners who come here and pitch tent and do this thing of gambling. I don't know who licenses them, and use our media and all that. They drive it because they pay adverts in the media and all that, Mr. Speaker, so that they entice people, and people put money, and we have seen children who have even used school fees, and even just adults. A grown-up man who has taken a loan and go and start gambling, Mr. Speaker, and they lose and end up losing even their family property. So this is a very serious monster that we must control, and Mr. Speaker, I think this motion is very timely, and we need to follow it up and bring maybe a bill so that we can properly regulate this business in this country. Mr. Speaker, in other countries that are doing these things, they are properly regulated, and you don't see this thing being abused the way it is being done in this country. So I support this motion, and I believe that if we can regulate this thing, then we will be able to manage the affairs that go on, especially in our informal settlement, where people, and they target these people, Mr. Speaker, they target the poor people, because every shilling they have, they want to go and use it in this business. Somebody just imagining that he has 5,000 shillings and he can win 100,000, he can win 20,000. So he just goes and throw the money, and then they end up losing, and it becomes very bad. And this has ended up even ruining families, people committing suicide and on like that, Mr. Speaker. So I support, and I say thank you for giving me a chance to contribute, Mr. Speaker.
Is the MP for Kitui West, the Honorable Edith Nyanza, in the House? If she is saying she should proceed immediately, give her the mic.
On this motion, first congratulating the MP for this motion. It has come at the right time. And there was a time I even wanted to ask her a question, but now he's put it in the right way by actually getting the facts together and bringing it as a motion. You notice that many radio stations, especially vernacular radio stations, are actually running gaming or betting activities with against the law, because they are not licensed and they do not have the requisite licenses to do so. You find that they're actually doing gaming. 80% of their time they are using on gaming and 20% on news. But they are supposed to act, they're actually licensed to do news and also advertisements and such like things. But most of the time they spend the time gaming. And this one has many Kenyans be victims, because what they do is that they try to ask very simple questions and very obvious questions, which anyone can answer. And by doing so, by asking such cheap questions, they attract the unsuspecting Kenyans who keep on trying, because especially during this time when we have people who are very desperate, these radio stations are taking advantage of these unsuspecting Kenyans who think that they can make money very quickly through gaming. With our youth, you find that our youth, they need a lot of education, they need a lot of counseling to be told that they will not get rich by getting money quickly, because that is what they are trying to do, because they think they will get money rich very quickly, and therefore they fall prey to these radio stations. So the gaming authorities should move swiftly and save Kenyans by coming up with required regulations, required policy. The government should come up with a required policy so that we protect the unsuspecting Kenyans. So the radio stations are giving false hope, stealing. Actually, this one is daylight, stealing from unsuspecting Kenyans. So I would address the Kenyans and tell them that to actually stop losing money, to stop losing money through this gaming, because what they are following or what they are doing is actually false. It's not true. There is no money, and it's not easy to get that 100,000 you are being promised by these radio stations. Just work hard. Use that money for the right kind of use which you wanted to use it for. Don't speculate that you will get money. There is no money, because even the people they are announcing on the radio stations that they have won If you follow, you will find that actually these are not real people. Maybe they are just their family members, maybe they are just their friends, and they are just lying that you are going to get a lot of money. So, Mr. Speaker, I support this motion and say that the government should move swiftly to come up with the regulations and the right guidelines to these radio stations. In fact, they should stop this game right away so that we don't have many Kenyans lose their money. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the motion.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Kericho County, the Honorable Beatrice Kimei.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this, the motion that has been raised by Honorable Matenge. I want to appreciate the fact that it has come at the right time when Kenyans are looking for any way possible to get food on their table, any way possible to pay their bills, to pay school fees and all that. And Mr. Speaker, when you talk of betting, gambling, lottery and all that, it is something that personally I don't believe. Being a Christian, I want to quote what the Bible says in 1 Timothy 6:10, that says that the love of money is the root of all evil. This tells us that people would want to have easy money, to get money in a very simple way, in a very easy way, and they're not only getting money, somebody putting 10 shillings, 50 shillings, and they are expecting to get hundreds, millions, and even thousands. Mr. Speaker, this one has a very much negative impact on our society. I have very many examples, Mr. Speaker, back in Kericho. I remember this one of Lotto that came so strongly, and many women left their houses very early in the morning, go and do the same betting, missed it, and then when they get back home, they were beaten. I know of a very close neighbor of mine. I had to go and rescue her. I told the husband, please don't chase her away. She was being chased to her home because of that. I talked with her. She's able to do many other things, but she concentrated on that, losing a lot of money. Some even left their children not to cook for them. Lunchtime is there. They are still very busy betting. And you can imagine.
We look at the vices vis-a-vis the advantages of gambling in this country, you will realize that the effect of the gambling on the negative are so immense. And this is the reason as to why we should make sure that gambling or betting in this country is regulated in a manner that it is not so disadvantageous to the young men and women who are mostly vulnerable due to the rampant effect of gambling. Today, Mr. Speaker, young families are unbreaking due to mistrust related to gambling, whereby either the wife or the husband is immensely indulged in gambling. So many Kenyans, particularly the young ones, are greatly impoverished due to gambling. The insatiable lust, the insatiable need for money have made so many young people to think that by doing betting, they will be millionaires in a fortnight. This is the wrong notion. This is the wrong thinking that has made people to suffer due to gambling. The mostly affected sector is the education sector, Mr. Speaker. Today, most of the students from the university are dropping out of school because they are deeply indulged in gambling. And this is the high time this owner of house should get ways and measures to make sure that we contain the betting in this country for the posterity of our young generation. So many vulnerable school-going kids, due to the negative publicity that is done by the media houses, the very sweet ones, very enticing ones, make them think that if you indulge in betting, by a day or so, or by a month, you will be a millionaire in this country. Just a few who has benefited from this, as it has been alluded, you will hear very sweet ones, music, to make sure that the listeners are made to move to this kind of business, which is not rewarding at all, as many people may think. So what we are saying is that one is also a kind of drug that is killing, that is eating to our society that needs to be very productive. Mr. Speaker, therefore, I'm calling the mover on Duncan to go ahead and have it as a bill so that we can discuss it and see the mechanisms, the best way possible we can make sure that we suppress this growing kind of a habit that might eat on our very, very useful sector of our society if not clearly abated. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I am saying the narrative that's being peddled by these houses to make sure that this kind of business derives for their benefit is not helping the young Kenyans and even the people who are greatly indulged in it. Today, even the football that we talk about, you hear fans talking about Goma here, talking about others, and mainly the international players. Whenever you hear them making noise, whenever they are saying we are supporting Arsenal, we are supporting Manchester, there is that element of gambling. And this is the reason as to why we are saying, as a country, we must get the mechanism and ways to regulate this growing kind of menace.
Of what we need to look at in this particular motion. Because, Honorable Speaker, anything in this world that has an illicit tag to it becomes automatically sweet for people to want to go for it. Be it prostitution, be it alcohol, be it betting, anything that has that tag. So what we need to do, in essence, is, for as long as this
Did you say, what did you say is illicit? Constitution, or what did I hear you say?
There's a P in front. I said prostitution.
Oh, prostitution.
Speaker. Yes.
Okay.
So what I want the approach I want us to take is that in formulating these regulations, we have to have a give and take approach in it. And the reason why I say that, and just to add to what my sister has said, is that some of these betting companies have really supported our sports. Yeah? Just the other day, Harambee Starlets were in training for a whole month, and they could not even go and attend a friendly against Albania because they did not have sufficient funds. But if you look at some of the betting companies, like for example, Mozart supports Homeboys FC, Betika supports Police FC and AFC, SportPesa supports Moranga and Gor Mahia. We have sports companies and clubs that are actually suffering right now, and we have to raise funds on a weekly basis, like Shabana from back at home, who are doing extremely well, but they don't have anyone to support because the government doesn't have enough sufficient funds to support our sports. So what we also need to do in our regulations is to look at a way that ensures that some of these betting companies that are actually supporting our sports, that are gaining revenue from it and supporting our sports, how are we also supporting them just to encourage them as well? Because regulation is good, yes, But at the same time, it has to be a regulation that also seeks to find out how are we also giving back. Because when you create laws in this country, they have to be laws that also encourage investment and revenue earning. Number two, the media companies. Because a lot of media companies, when you look at it right now, Honorable Speaker, be it FM stations or TV stations, they've gone into that space. Why? Because a lot of people are no longer doing advertisements on media. People don't have money. We are living in extremely difficult times. So for media houses, they found that this is one way that they can actually use to raise revenue for themselves. So what these regulations need to do is to ensure, because I am certain that every media company in this country has a legal office attached to it, is to ensure that the legal fraternities and departments in these radio stations and TV stations are making sure that the laws that we have in place are properly put in place to ensure that they also protect the consumers of this. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the Sports Amendment Bill of 2018, and in particular Section 12(1)(2) of A and B, it actually states very clearly that proceeds of any sports lottery taxes levied on betting companies should ideally go to the sports fund, so that then the sports fund can assist to make sure that the different teams that we have in this country are supported. The question we should be asking ourselves is this really happening? Has KRA given audit records to the sports committee to ensure that this actually happens? And I saw the sports chair here, Mr. Chair, and I really wanted him to listen to this, because this is another angle that we should be looking at. So when we're reading both acts, the Lottery and Betting Act and the Sports Act, we need to make sure that it covers ground sufficiently so that it helps this country. Mr. Speaker, one of the games that earned this, the sports Gor Mahia the highest source of revenue was a game that they played against Everton in May of 2019. And that particular game was a full stadium in Kasarani. I remember I was in attendance. That particular game, through SportsPesa, who did extreme marketing online, on social media, on radio, on TV, was full capacity. And full capacity because it ensured that people paid for the game, people put a bet to either support Everton or Gor Mahia, and because of that, the team was able to actually pay allowances for its players and coaches, and they were able to actually serve the sports fraternity. So what I want us to do is, let's not only look at the bad side of gambling, because for as much as we can sit here all day and say that we want people to stop gambling, we want people to stop putting money in gambling, there's nothing we can do about it. People will still go out there and gamble. People will still go out there and put money into these betting companies. What we need to do is make sure, are we milking enough from these different companies to ensure that the government also has an extra source of revenue to support some of these facilities that they cannot support. Right now in this country, Honorable Speaker, we don't even have medical insurance for our sporting men and women. We have sporting men and women out there who have retired prematurely because they're not able to get proper medical facility. So let's not come out and injure the people who are at least trying their best to assist in whichever way that they can to make sure that this continues, even as we go out to seek solutions. So, Honorable Speaker, I just want to encourage my colleague Dan, Honorable Dan from Nyeri, and tell him that as we are looking at the regulations that we want to take care of, let's make sure that we are also protecting our people from the same. And personally, because one of the reasons I said when I came into this parliament was that I will always look out for sports fans and sports players, because sports bring people together. So Honorable Dan, together with the committee that is going to work on this, let's look at other ways. Let's even go into public participation and see how Wananchi can also give us ideas on how we can enhance this and make it better for our people. I thank you.
The President of Kenya and the Deputy President are leading a team to sensitize, with NACADA, are working out a way of stopping or the use of drugs and the use of illicit brews, which have become rampant in Kenya and which have ruined our young generation, that if we are not careful, we will not have a generation in future as Kenya. That is where the problem is. So if this gambling is not censored, it becomes problematic. Once upon a time, when I used to teach at the university, you would walk to a classroom and find empty lecture rooms because some students are busy gambling. Most of them wasted away the fee they were given by their parents. Most of them sold everything, sold their college earthly possessions for the sake of gambling. We saw parents coming to the graduation, hoping that their kids were supposed to be in the graduation list, but they have dropped out, they have not been able to pay fees, they have never been to classes because they were gambling. When gambling becomes an addiction, that is where the problem comes about. We have had cases of Fulisa. Young people, you find them having more than 20 SIM cards because they are getting money, getting small loans from Fulisa to gamble. Isn't that a problem? So my take is, this gambling has to be regulated before it escalates to become an addiction, and more so to young people. When they start participating in this game, they lose concentration. Others drop out of school. Others become petty thieves because they want to get little money. We've heard of stories of young people taking money from their parents' phones, and many other stories which are not very good for our society. Mr. Speaker, I would say that if this business is regulated, it is not enough to tax them, because taxation is going to, if we tax, it's like we are legitimizing the business anyway. We have to regulate them so that we censor and make sure those people who participate, they give an age gap, for example, of those who are supposed to participate in the gambling. And we bring clear regulations on how the game should be done. Otherwise, I'm also a member of parliament who has a rural constituency and urban. And you'll find that in the urban side of my constituency, there are so many gambling centers. People are reaping from very young people. We've had relationships breaking because the money, which is supposed to be for families, have been diverted to do other things like gambling. So what my take is, this motion is a very good motion. We should look at it critically and ensure we only delete what is not relevant, what is destructive, but we leave the business. We give the we press the regulator to get a bit serious and not just regulate anybody, not just give a license anyone because they want to be in business, because they want to make money. Just like those the organizations which are regulating these, those who regulate the supply of alcohol and drugs in our society, we'll find that some county governments are very fast in giving businesses licenses, regardless of what kind of alcohol or what kind of alcohol they are selling. Some just get the license and they go ahead to do illicit brews, and that eventually people get addicted and becomes problematic. So I think we should lump all of them and work closely to see which one is a good business and which one is not. If measures are put in place, I think everybody will be happy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Irene Mayaka.
Setup might be a trap for you yourself, so we should be very careful. Betting companies pay their taxes. If we must regulate, maybe we can up it a little so that they pay higher, because we see the participants are many across even Africa or the world, and maybe what they give back is what we should be looking into, the auditing. We should be looking into how much do they give back to the country. But we all, as leaders, have a role into looking after our kids, what they are getting into. Many times, I do not sleep until I go through the history of my phone to monitor what my baby or my nephews or nieces have been looking into. So it is just a way of people being very lazy. What will your child be doing betting, and you are there? If they are trying those things, just stop them. So let us not throw punches and escape from our responsibilities as parents and start saying it is this gambling, it is that. And also, I think in the regulations, they would add and say, the way they say it to people who drink, that you engage in it at your own risk or something like that. It's a little warning to it. But do not kill any institutions that are here, that are helping our sports, our games. They are helping in one way or another in charitable activities. We see them helping out, and that is all I wanted to say. Thank you.
From Honorable Madenge. Mr. Speaker, gambling also considered as pathological gambling is a situation, is not a bad idea, but the problem comes in when it becomes addictive. And when it becomes an addiction, it is just like any